Hello and welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be different from my previous content. Normally what I do is talk about my profits that I make through the market, whether it is because the stock goes up in value or because I make profits and dividends. I have also started doing a new series within the week where I review the market for certain positions that I like. For example, I might go over Apple, I might go over Tesla, I might go over Bitcoin and talk about how it did in the market, if there's any news, the trends that it's kind of leaning towards, etc. Everything that I've been talking about hasn't been remotely close to what I'm going to be talking about now, and that is debt and my journey to be debt-free by as soon as possible, really. I don't have a specific date or year necessarily where I want to be debt-free. But once I go over my debt, I think you'll see that there's A, not a lot, and also B, it's not spread out in multiple places. Alright, so let's talk about my debt. The first thing I do want to lay out is the why. So why am I talking about my debt, and why do I want to get rid of my debt? Why am I so adamant now about clearing my debt? And the answer is really simple, actually. I want to buy a house. Or I should say, I wanted to buy a house. I was going to buy a house this year, but looking in the market, I have not seen any houses that are either to my liking or that I feel are priced accordingly. And this has something to do with the pandemic. So a lot of people started fleeing cities and have started migrating to more suburban areas. And that's the area that I wanted to buy a house in, meaning there's more competition to buy the house, which will drive the prices higher, and I will be left with smaller options because people that can't afford to buy the good houses will scoop them up as fast as possible, leaving the bad ones for people like me. Also, the very fact that people are shopping around more drives the prices up higher, which will in turn leave people like me having to settle for houses that are less expensive but really not that nice, or what I'm doing right now and waiting for the market to kind of stabilize a bit. So to answer the why, I am switching from saving for a house to now just paying off debt in general so I can increase my credit score and have a better time finding a house that I like. The only reason I'm not using the money that I would use to buy the house in the stock market is because I am already using about 60+% of my after-tax salary in investments in one way or another, whether that is a 401k, an IRA, or my Robinhood account, or even an ESPP account. I have been utilizing my salary very well and want to work on something in parallel to my investing goals. Alright, so what kind of debt do I have? This answer is again very straightforward and very simple. I am not the kind of person who takes out loans unnecessarily. I did take out a loan for a car and I paid that off. I did use credit cards to kind of get me through college. I paid that off. So now the only debt that I have is student loans. And now we can segue to the most important question for a debt video. How much do I owe? And since I haven't been irresponsible with debt, the answer is again very, very simple. I can just look at my student loans and know exactly how much I owe, which is $30,000. I ended my college career using $40,000 worth of student loans and have since then paid off about $10,000. I did use FAFSA or financial aid since my income bracket fell in the area where financial aid was an option. However, I didn't use any race-based grants that I would have been applicable for because, in short, that is not my style. I do not want someone to give me money because of my race, and I don't want other people to not get the same privilege because of their race. I also had no monetary help from my parents, and I had to work for everything that I needed, like school books if I couldn't afford it with the FAFSA or with the loans. So the total debt that I have said I ended with could have actually been a lot more if I wasn't actively working to afford my education, and also if I did actually take the grants that were applicable for my race and whatnot. I would have ended with a lower loan amount, although I would have been going against my morals. Before moving on to my game plan, my goal for this year to tackle my student loan, I'm going to tell you what these series of videos are not going to be. They are not going to be me showing what my net worth is. And the only reason is because if you watch my other videos, you can kind of tell what my net worth is. And also, I do not count any of my quote-unquote assets as a part of my net worth. And you might be wondering, isn't that the whole point of calculating your net worth? You take a look at your assets and then add them with your liabilities. And yeah, but no, not for me. Before you click out of the video, let me explain what I mean. So we'll take a car as our first example. Let's say I'm calculating my net worth and assuming my car is like $5,000 at the time I'm calculating my net worth. My argument is that you should not calculate the car's worth in your net worth because it is a depreciating asset that you will probably not get rid of until it stops working, if you're a normal person. In other words, when all is said and done, the car is either going to be wind up being useless or worthless because you either get it in a car wreck or you use it so much that it just breaks down, and you including it in your net worth is just kind of a peace of mind thing that you have going on. You're essentially saying, yeah, I have X amount of liabilities, but at least I have a car that's worth this much. However, you're probably not going to be selling that car unless you really have to, and I'm not planning on selling my car, so I'm not including that in my net worth. The other example that I can give is a house. I don't have a house, but let's say I do have a house that is worth $300,000, right? If I calculate the house amount in my net worth, it's not really doing anything for me because again, I'm not gonna sell the house. If I sell the house, I have the money, but I don't have a house. See what I mean? So unless it's like a rental property, which I understand why people would put that in their net worth. However, a house that you're gonna be living for 50 plus years should not be included in your net worth unless you want to brag about how much you are worth. Then by all means go ahead and add it. But for me, if I want to keep it real for myself as well as you guys, I'm never going to include that for my net worth because I don't want to brag about my net worth. A. B. Also, I do not want fake peace of mind. And finally, since my goal is to retire as soon as possible, if I consider the house and the car that I own in my net worth, then it's just fooling myself into thinking that I'm closer into retirement. Because let's say my net worth is $500,000 and I decide to retire, but my house is worth like $200,000, we'll say. Once I run out of the money, and I mean the liquid assets that I have, which would be in this scenario $300,000, will I then sell the house to maintain my retirement? It doesn't make sense. So that's also why I'm not including my net worth or even talking about my net worth. So now the game plan. It is a very simple plan. Every single month, I will be paying down $1,500 of my student loans starting in February. I will prioritize the loan group that will be charging me the most interest. In most cases, it will be the ones with the higher interest rate, although that might not necessarily always be the case. As you can see here, Group AI has an interest rate of above 5%, but it's also the one that I am prioritizing the least because if you multiply the interest rate times the amount due for that particular loan, it is much lower than, let's say, Group AE or AG. I am aiming to pay off about $17,000, which will leave me at about $12,000 remaining at the end of the year, which is pretty decent, I would say. And that's where we're ending the video. Make sure that if you want to keep up to date with my progress, that you subscribe. Make sure you like the video if you liked it. Otherwise, watch out for my next debt-free video sometime next month. All right, guys. See ya.